The bright morning sun gleamed over the sleek, white fuselage of a private jet adorned with the Trump family insignia. Inside the hangar, Barron Trump, now 18 and freshly certified as a private pilot, stood proudly in his aviator jacket, clutching the checklist of pre-flight procedures. His tall frame exuded confidence, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of nerves, an understandable reaction for someone about to undertake their first solo flight. "Are you sure you're ready for this, son?" Donald Trump asked, his voice a blend of pride and apprehension. Despite his usual bravado, the former president seemed uncharacteristically subdued. His youngest son, the baby of the family, was about to take on the skies alone. "I've been ready for months, Dad," Barron replied, flashing a confident grin. His voice carried an air of excitement, tinged with the nerves of someone attempting a monumental task. Today marked a significant milestone in Barron's life. After months of rigorous training and simulations, he was prepared to take the controls and soar into the skies without an instructor by his side. His destination was Palm Beach International Airport, a relatively short trip but one that symbolized his growing independence and maturity. As Barron performed the final pre-flight checks, his instructor, Captain Reynolds, stood a few feet away, watching intently. A seasoned pilot with decades of experience, Reynolds had guided Barron through every step of his training. He nodded approvingly as Barron methodically went through the checklist. "You've got this, Barron," he said, his tone calm and reassuring. With a deep breath, Barron climbed into the cockpit and secured his harness. The familiar hum of the jet systems powering up filled the cabin. He ran his hands over the controls, a mixture of excitement and determination washing over him. Moments later, he was taxiing down the runway, the jet's powerful engines roaring to life. The plane lifted gracefully into the air, and Barron felt an adrenaline rush like no other. Below him, the Trump estate became a miniature diorama, its sprawling grounds fading into the horizon as he ascended. The initial phase of the flight was flawless. Barron's hands moved deftly across the controls, adjusting the altitude and speed with precision. For a moment, he allowed himself to relax, gazing out at the endless expanse of clouds. The sun bathed the cockpit in a warm glow, and the world below seemed peaceful and distant. He felt a sense of accomplishment, the culmination of months of hard work and dedication. About halfway through the flight, cruising at 30,000 feet, an unexpected alert flashed on the dashboard. A shrill beeping sound filled the cockpit, jolting Barron from his thoughts. His heart skipped a beat as he scanned the instruments. Hydraulic pressure low, the display red. Panic threatened to creep in, but Barron took a deep breath, his training kicking in. He grabbed the radio and called out, "Mayday, Mayday. This is N45BT. Experiencing hydraulic issues." The response from the control tower was immediate. "N45BT, we copy. Can you confirm the severity of the issue?" Barron checked the manual override systems. Controls felt sluggish, and the plane began to sway slightly. "I'm losing responsiveness in the flight controls. Requesting immediate guidance. Stay calm, N45BT. We're rerouting you to the nearest airstrip. Stand by for coordinates." As Barron worked to stabilize the aircraft, another issue arose. A sudden turbulence rattled the plane violently, causing items in the cabin to clatter to the floor. Barron tightened his grip on the yoke, his knuckles white. "Dad's going to kill me if I crash his plane," he muttered under his breath, a moment of levity amid the chaos. The radio crackled again. "Barron, this is Captain Reynolds. Listen to me carefully. You've trained for scenarios like this. Focus on your emergency checklist." Barron nodded, even though no one could see him. He flipped through the emergency procedures in his mind. Deploy backup hydraulic system, switch to manual controls, maintain altitude. As he adjusted the controls, another unexpected complication emerged. He heard a faint rustling sound coming from the cabin. His heart raced. He was supposed to be alone on this flight. Turning his head, he saw the curtain to the cabin sway slightly. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice cracking slightly. There was no response. Grabbing the emergency flashlight, Barron cautiously unbuckled his harness and made his way to the cabin. Peering into the dimly lit space, he saw a figure, A young woman, barely older than him, huddled in one of the seats. How did you get on this plane? He demanded, his tone a mix of disbelief and frustration. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear. But I didn't mean to cause trouble. I work at the hangar. I was cleaning the cabin before takeoff and fell asleep. When I woke up, we were in the air. Barron groaned, running a hand through his hair. Great. Just great. As if this flight wasn't complicated enough. The turbulence grew worse, and Barron hurried back to the cockpit, the girl following close behind. What's your name? He asked over his shoulder. Lila, she replied. I know a bit about planes. My dad was a mechanic. Barron hesitated but realized he needed all the help he could get. Fine, Lila. Sit down and hold on. I'll explain what's happening. As Barron briefed her on the situation, Lila pointed to one of the panels. The backup hydraulic system. Did you try resetting it? Sometimes it just needs a manual override. I was about to, Barron admitted, surprised by her knowledge. Working together, they managed to reset the backup system. The controls became slightly more responsive, but they weren't out of danger yet. The turbulence was still a major issue, and the nearest airstrip was 20 minutes away. Suddenly, another complication arose. The radio crackled with an alarming message from air traffic control. N45BT, we've detected an unidentified aircraft in your vicinity. Maintain vigilance. Barron's heart sank. Unidentified aircraft? Are you serious right now? Through the windshield, he spotted a shadow in the distance. It appeared to be a drone, flying erratically. Lila, can you see that? Barron asked. She squinted. Yeah, that's a drone. It's way too close. Barron knew the risks. If the drone collided with the plane, it could cause catastrophic damage. Taking a deep breath, he maneuvered the jet carefully, trying to avoid the erratic path of the drone. With the drone successfully avoided, Barron focused on the final challenge, landing. The runway at the emergency airstrip was short, and the hydraulic system was still not fully operational. Lila, I need you to monitor the airspeed and call it out for me. This is going to be tricky. Got it, she said, her voice steady despite the situation. As the plane descended, Barron fought to keep it aligned with the runway. The wheels touched down with a jolt, and the jet skidded along the tarmac, sparks flying from the brakes. Brace yourself, Barron shouted. The plane came to a screeching halt just feet from the end of the runway. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the sound of their heavy breathing. Emergency vehicles surrounded the plane, and the doors were opened. Barron and Lila were ushered out, both looking shaken but unharmed. Donald Trump arrived shortly after, his face a mix of anger and relief. What the hell happened up there? He demanded. Barron recounted the series of events, from the hydraulic failure to the drone and the emergency landing. Lila chimed in, explaining how she ended up on the flight and how she helped troubleshoot the systems. Donald looked at his son, then at Lila. Well, you both managed to avoid disaster. Good job.